I used to believe that if my marriage ever collapsed, it would be due to something loud and catastrophic. A blazing argument, some shocking betrayal, or one of us storming out the door, unable to deal with the tension any longer. What I never imagined was that it would start unraveling in such a quiet, almost indifferent way, right over dinner, with my wife speaking as casually as if she were asking for the salt. That's what made it all the more devastating. It was just an ordinary Tuesday night. I'd come home from work feeling worn out, but also grounded in the familiar rhythm of our life. The house smelled of rosemary chicken, one of my favorite dishes. Lynette, my wife of 7 years, was at the stove, humming softly while plating our food. I walked over, kissed her gently on the temple, and murmured that everything smelled amazing. She smiled in response, but there was a strange flicker in her eyes, one I should have paid more attention to. We sat down to eat, and the first few minutes felt routine. We chatted about mundane things, how our days had gone, the neighbor's endlessly barking dog, and the washing machine that was acting up again. Then, as I was about to sip from my glass of water, she set her fork down, took a breath, and said something that would shift everything. She said she had made the decision to help Everett become a father. I froze with my glass halfway to my lips, the words echoing in my mind before I could fully comprehend them. Everett, our friend, the guy she'd known since college? An uncomfortable feeling churned in my stomach as I slowly lowered my glass. I asked her what exactly she meant. Lynette smiled, her tone gentle, like she was sharing good news. She explained that Everett had always dreamed of having children, and ever since his divorce, he had felt completely lost. He had explored adoption, but the process was complicated and costly. According to her, he just needed a little help. The way she said it, so calm, so casual, made my skin prickle. I let out an uneasy laugh, trying to make sense of it all. Was she actually suggesting being a surrogate? But her silence said everything. My appetite vanished as the truth started to settle in. I leaned back in my chair, my voice stiff as I asked her to clarify what helping him meant. She reached out for my hand, but I instinctively pulled away. Her face flickered with emotion, but she kept going. She said it plainly. She and Everett had discussed it and decided that the most natural path was best. No clinics, no medical treatments. Just the old-fashioned way. I stared at her, thinking I must have misunderstood. I waited for a laugh, for her to say it was all a joke. But she didn't. She just looked at me, eyes filled with expectation, like she genuinely believed I would agree to something so outrageous. My voice, foreign even to my own ears, asked if she seriously thought I'd be okay with that. Lynette sighed and rubbed her temples, like I was the one making things difficult. She tried to explain that it wasn't about love, that Everett would be a wonderful father, and that this was simply about helping someone achieve a lifelong dream. Inside, I felt like I was drowning. The room around me blurred as if the floor had transformed into quicksand, and no matter how hard I tried to steady myself, I was slipping further into disbelief. I asked if she had already made up her mind. Her hesitation was all the confirmation I needed. I pushed my chair back so fast it scraped across the floor. Standing now, I looked at her and asked if she truly expected me to give her my blessing. If she thought I could sit back and watch my own wife justify this decision as if it were noble. My voice cracked as I tried to say it, swallowing hard before continuing. Was she really about to go to bed with another man and convince herself it was for a good reason? She winced, saying it wasn't what I thought. But it was exactly that. I told her so. Her expression hardened. She admitted that she and Everett had been discussing this for weeks. She had wanted to tell me earlier, but was afraid of how I'd react. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Did she really think I'd cheer her on? Offer to drive her to his house. She rose from her chair, folding her arms defensively, and accused me of overreacting. Something inside me broke at that moment. I had loved her deeply. I had trusted her with everything. And now, she stood there, brushing off my pain like it was some minor issue to be managed. I backed away, shaking my head. I told her I needed time to think. Lynette let out a frustrated sigh, clearly disappointed. She said she had truly hoped I would be more supportive. I looked at her, this woman I thought I knew, and felt something inside me shatter. I turned and walked out the door. I left the house without any clear destination. My head was pounding, my chest tight, and my mind spinning so fast I couldn't make sense of anything. I just knew I needed air, I needed distance. Most of all, I needed to be away from that room. where Lynette acted like this was a harmless disagreement, like she hadn't just torn apart the very fabric of our marriage. I got into my car and started driving with no direction in mind. My grip on the steering wheel was so tight my knuckles turned white. I couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't accept it. My wife wanted to carry another man's child, and not by anonymous donation or sterile clinic procedures. No, she had planned to do it the natural way. She had talked it through, made arrangements, all without me. My jaw tightened until it hurt. After nearly 20 minutes of wandering aimlessly in the car, I eventually pulled into a sparsely populated parking lot in front of a weathered diner. The flickering neon sign outside bathed the pavement in a faint, flickering light. I wasn't hungry, but I needed something to do, anything to keep me grounded. My body moved on instinct, detached from the thoughts racing through my mind. Inside, the diner was nearly deserted. A weary waitress, her graying hair tied back loosely, gave me a faint, polite nod as I slid into a booth tucked away in the corner. I asked for a coffee, even though the adrenaline already had me feeling wired. I took out my phone and stared blankly at the screen. No calls. No messages. So this was it? Lynette hadn't even bothered to check in? Was she sitting comfortably at home, sipping wine, and convincing herself that she was the one being rational? Taking a long breath, I did something I hadn't fully decided on until the moment my fingers moved. I opened my message thread and selected Everett's name. I typed, "We need to talk." My thumb hovered over the send button, trembling slightly. Before I could back out, I pressed it. Almost instantly, a reply popped up. "Yeah, I figured. Let me know where." My jaw tensed. Figured. So he already knew how twisted this was, yet he still went through with it. I typed back, "Northside Diner. 30 minutes. His response was just a thumbs-up emoji. The bell above the door jingled as Everett entered. His eyes found me right away, and he made his way over, sliding into the booth across from mine. His expression carried the weight of guilt, and for some reason, that stirred more anger in me than if he'd walked in looking smug. He opened his mouth, ready to speak, but I raised a hand to stop him. "Let me ask you something," I said, keeping my tone steady even though my hands were clenched into tight fists beneath the table. "When did you decide this was okay?" Everett let out a deep sigh, his hand rubbing the back of his neck. "Look, I know how this must seem." A sharp, humorless laugh escaped me. "Do you?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you were preparing to sleep with my wife behind my back and trying to package it as something noble." He winced. "It wasn't like that." "Then explain," I snapped. "Tell me how this isn't exactly what it looks like." He exhaled hard, his fingers tapping nervously against the table. "She came to me. She was passionate about the idea. She described it like some beautiful, generous thing, like we'd be helping a friend. She made it seem like an opportunity to give me something I could never have otherwise." He shook his head, clearly troubled. At first, I honestly thought she was joking. But she wasn't. My stomach twisted. "And you just went along with it? Didn't stop to think about how I might feel?" He finally looked at me, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place, maybe regret, maybe pity. "I asked her if you were okay with it." I scoffed. "And what did she tell you?" His hesitation gave me the answer before he even opened his mouth. I slammed my fist on the table, the coffee cup rattling from the impact. "What did she say, Everett?" "She told me you were on board." A heavy silence settled over us, cold and hollow. I leaned back, dragging a hand down my face. So she had lied to both of us. Everett gave a slow, reluctant nod. My insides churned. I couldn't tell what hurt more, the actual betrayal or the realization that Lynette hadn't even respected me enough to be honest. She had chosen what she wanted and then crafted a convenient narrative to make it happen. The waitress returned to refill my coffee, eyeing Everett with curiosity, as if she could sense the tension thickening the air. I barely noticed her. My mind was elsewhere, spinning through all the implications. If she had lied about this, what else had she hidden from me? I had to get home. I needed to confront her and get to the bottom of everything. As I pulled into the driveway, the house appeared mostly dark, except for the faint light from a lamp glowing through the living room window. My hands trembled as I opened the front door and stepped inside. Lynette was curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her legs tucked underneath. When she saw me, her expression shifted slightly, her eyes showing something I couldn't quite read. "You left," she said in a soft voice. I ignored the comment. "Did you tell Everett that I agreed to this?" She blinked and then looked away. That was all I needed to confirm the truth. "Incredible," I muttered, pacing back and forth. "So not only did you spring this insanity on me tonight, but you also made sure to cover your tracks by lying to him too?" She sighed. "I knew how you'd react. I thought if you believed you were okay with it, things would go more smoothly. More smoothly for who? I shot back. She stood up, pulling the blanket tighter around her. You're acting like I cheated on you. I let out a dry laugh. Oh, I'm sorry. Would it be better if I waited until after you slept with him before reacting? She winced. That's not fair. No, Lynette. What's unfair is being lied to by the person I trusted most. I ran my hand through my hair, my chest growing tight. You didn't even give me the courtesy of a choice. You made up your mind and fabricated a story to get what you wanted. She bit her lip. I didn't think you'd understand. I stared at her, standing there in my living room like a stranger. A woman I thought I knew. I don't even recognize you anymore. Her face fell apart at those words. Please, don't say that. I wasn't sure if I could undo what had happened. And, deep down, I wasn't even certain I wanted to try. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, a sobering thought hit me. Maybe this wasn't something that could be fixed. And maybe, I was done trying. The silence between us was vast, like a canyon too wide to bridge. Lynette stood still, wrapped tightly in her blanket, resembling a child desperately trying to hide from the weight of her choices. But some things couldn't be hidden from, not anymore. I couldn't even bring myself to look at her. I need you to help me understand something, I said at last, my voice low but unwavering. At what point did you decide that your grand idea was more important than our marriage? She sighed, her hands rubbing her arms like a sudden chill had settled over her. That's not how it is. Then explain it to me, I said, folding my arms. Because right now, from where I'm standing, it looks like you deceived me. You lied to Everett, and now you're acting like I'm the one who's overreacting. Lynette bit her lip, hesitating. That brief pause made my anger surge. Tell me the truth, Lynette. She drew in a sharp breath before finally responding. I started thinking about it a couple of months ago. A couple of months? The words hit me like a blow to the chest. While I was moving through life, assuming everything in our marriage was okay, she had been working on this behind my back. She must have caught the expression on my face, because she hurried to explain. I don't know. I started feeling like I wasn't doing anything meaningful. Like I wasn't contributing in a way that mattered. And Everett has always wanted to be a father. I thought I could help him. So I figured, why not? A dry laugh escaped me as I shook my head. Why not? I echoed, in disbelief. She nodded. Yes. Why not? It's not like I'm walking away from you. It's not like I'm in love with him. I stared at her, blinking slowly, trying to process what I was hearing. Lynette, do you even hear yourself? Do you understand what you're actually saying? Her expression twisted with frustration. I thought you'd see the bigger picture. The bigger picture? My voice dropped to a colder, sharper tone. Let me see if I've got this right. You think what you're doing is generous, maybe even noble, something larger than us. And I'm just supposed to stand here and applaud you? She winced. No, she murmured. I stepped closer, the weight of everything she'd done pressing down hard on me. You don't get to rewrite this. You didn't act out of selflessness. You acted without me. You kept secrets. You made decisions alone. That's not noble. That's betrayal. Her eyes filled with unshed tears. I didn't think you'd understand. My jaw tightened. You're right. I don't. I don't understand how the person I married, someone I trusted completely, could choose this. She pulled the blanket tighter around her, her arms hugging her own body. I didn't mean to hurt you. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. All this time, I had convinced myself that if Lynette ever did something that hurt me, it had to be accidental. A slip. Something unintentional. But now, the truth stared me in the face. She had known this would break me. She knew it wasn't right. Yet, she did it anyway. I inhaled slowly. Lynette, I need space. Her eyes went wide. Space for what? To figure out whether I can live with this. The color drained from her face. So you might leave me? I didn't say a word. I didn't have an answer, and that terrified me more than anything else. Sleep was impossible that night. I lay on my back, staring blankly at the ceiling, listening to the house creak and settle. Sounds that once brought comfort now made the silence heavier. Lynette had gone to bed without saying anything more. No apology. No attempt to fix things. It was like she believed this would pass, that I'd move on and accept it. By morning, I was still lost. I had no clear plan, only the growing awareness that I couldn't go on pretending everything was fine. I needed clarity. I needed to know what else she was hiding. So while she showered, I made a choice I never imagined myself making. I picked up her phone. I wasn't proud of it, but at that point, our trust had already been shattered. What was one more fracture? The first place I looked was her conversation with Everett. What I found froze the blood in my veins. Everett, I can't believe you still haven't told him. Lynette, I will. I just need the right moment. You've been saying that for weeks. He's sensitive about this. I have to help him see the bigger picture. If he finds out on his own, it's going to be a disaster. My grip on the phone tightened. The truth. They had been hiding something. I kept scrolling. I just wish he was more open-minded, Lynette wrote. It's not like I'm romantically interested in you. Everett replied, yeah, but you also said this wouldn't feel like cheating. Let's be real, it kind of does. It's not cheating if it's for a greater purpose, she insisted. I think he'd see it differently. That's why he doesn't need to know everything. The air felt thick and suffocating. She hadn't just omitted the truth. She deliberately kept it from me. She knew it would devastate me. And she still followed through, carefully crafting lies to keep me in the dark. My hands trembled as I put the phone back down. For the first time, I truly saw her for who she was. This wasn't about an innocent mistake or a spur-of-the-moment act of misguided kindness. What I was dealing with was deliberate, a thought-out, intentional decision to mislead me. And in that instant, everything became clear. I had been agonizing over how to repair what was broken. But maybe this wasn't something I could fix. Maybe it wasn't even mine to fix. Sitting alone in the dimly lit kitchen, I still held Lynette's phone tightly in my hands. My heart raced as I reread the messages, each line deepening the ache in my chest. I had been in denial, perhaps willingly so, convincing myself that she had simply made a poor judgment. That maybe, just maybe, I could make her see reason. But this wasn't about misunderstanding. This was deliberate deceit, carefully constructed and deeply personal. I returned her phone to the exact spot where I'd found it, my hands trembling. She would be out of the shower soon, and I wasn't ready for her to know I'd uncovered everything. Not yet. Because for the first time since this all began, I wasn't just reacting emotionally. I was thinking clearly, strategizing. I needed to know the full scope of what had happened. I needed to decide whether anything between us was still worth salvaging. By the time Lynette entered the kitchen, I had already brewed coffee. I leaned casually against the counter, watching her glide through the room as though nothing had changed. Morning, she greeted me, her voice light as she ran a towel through her wet hair. I gave a small nod, keeping my tone even. Morning. She paused, her eyes studying me. She must have noticed the shift in the air between us. Are we okay? I took a slow sip of coffee before answering. I'm not sure. That wasn't the answer she had been hoping for. She pressed her lips together, then sighed. I know this is a lot, but I really need you to trust me. The word trust felt bitter in my mouth. I swallowed the laugh threatening to escape and instead exhaled, trying to keep my composure. Let's talk about that, I said carefully. When exactly were you planning to tell me that you and Everett have been talking about this for weeks? Her entire body tensed. There it was, the moment of recognition. She knew I'd found out. She opened her mouth to speak, then stopped again, visibly flustered, probably scrambling for some sort of justification. I wanted to wait until the timing was right, she finally said. The right time? I echoed. Would that have been before or after you told Everett I didn't need to know everything? Color drained from her face. I kept my voice calm, though my insides churned. I read your messages, Lynette. I saw how you twisted the truth. You were fully aware I wouldn't go along with this. So, instead, you decided to lie, not only to me but to Everett as well. She wrapped her arms around herself, her voice small. I didn't lie. I thought if I explained it the right way, you'd understand. I knew you'd react emotionally. My mug hit the counter with a sharp sound. She flinched. I ran a hand down my face, weariness sinking deep into my bones. You need to hear this, Lynette. I'm not angry because you wanted to help someone. I'm angry because you made a life-altering decision without me. Because you lied. Because you manipulated everything to serve your plan. Her eyes welled with tears, but I didn't let them sway me. Not this time. You betrayed me, I said, my voice strained. You betrayed the vows we made to each other. And the most painful part is that you don't even realize how deep that betrayal goes. Her lower lip quivered. I thought I was doing something good. I looked at her, feeling an unfamiliar hollowness taking hold of me. For whom? She had no response. Her silence spoke louder than words ever could. The days that followed blurred together. Lynette and I barely exchanged words. It felt as though we had become strangers living in the same house, two ghosts haunting the remnants of what used to be our life. But I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. If she had lied about this, what else could she be hiding? Another sleepless night pushed me toward a decision I never imagined I'd make. I arranged to meet Everett again. We sat inside his car, away from curious eyes. He looked worn down, like sleep had been eluding him too. I need to hear everything, I said, staring straight ahead. No more holding back. He exhaled heavily. I already told you all I know. No, I said firmly, turning to face him. You're still trying to protect her. He hesitated, then finally spoke, and what he said chilled me to my core. She didn't want you to be involved in the decision. I furrowed my brow. What do you mean? She said you were too traditional, that you wouldn't understand. She believed that if she gave you a say, you'd say no. I felt a knot twist in my stomach. So she hid it from you, Everett went on, because she didn't want to risk you stopping her. My grip on the steering wheel tightened until my knuckles turned white. She knew it was wrong, I whispered. Everett let out a slow breath. Yeah. Later that night, I returned home to find Lynette on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. Her eyes were red and swollen, her expression strained. Where were you? She asked softly. I was with Everett, I replied flatly. She flinched at my words. Oh. I drew in a long breath, eyes locked on her. I know the full truth now. She didn't even try to deny it. Instead of raising her voice, she leaned in and softly asked, Do you hate me? That quiet question struck deeper than any shouting ever could. By all logic, I should have been filled with rage. I should have been livid, yelling, demanding explanations, drawing lines in the sand. But the truth was, I didn't hate her at all. The painful reality was that the love I once had for her had faded. And somehow, that felt even heavier. We sat there in the living room, surrounded by silence that screamed louder than words. There was a tension in the air, thick with things left unsaid. I noticed how her eyes pleaded with mine, desperately hoping to find a trace of forgiveness in my expression. Her voice broke through the quiet. I made a mistake, she murmured. I understand that now. I closed my eyes briefly, letting her admission linger in the stillness. But the damage had already been done. My reply came slowly, my voice raspy but calm. I'm not sure I'll ever be able to trust you again. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I'll do whatever it takes, she cried. I'll call Everett right now. I'll fix this, I promise. I gently shook my head. This isn't just about him. This is about us. What hurts most is how you showed me that my feelings, my trust, didn't matter to you. She broke down into quiet sobs, curling into herself on the couch. I stood up, feeling the gravity of my decision anchoring me to the floor. I'm leaving, I said firmly. Her head jerked up. What? She asked, disbelief written across her face. I need room to breathe. I need time to rediscover who I am outside of all this chaos, I said. In a rush, she jumped up and grabbed my arm. Please, don't go, she begged. I carefully pulled my arm free from her grip. You made your decision, Lynette. Now I have to make mine. With that, I walked out the door. It's been half a year since that moment. At the beginning, the silence was suffocating. The loneliness felt endless. I was drowning in everything I thought I had lost. But over time, I started to rebuild the pieces of myself. I found a modest apartment across town. I buried myself in work. I reconnected with friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Most importantly, I rediscovered who I was. Lynette reached out a few times after that, offering apologies, asking for another shot. But I never replied. Because in the end, I finally embraced one of life's hardest truths. Some betrayals are beyond repair. And sometimes, choosing to walk away is the most courageous act you can take.